Yuna stood alone in her room, looking out at the purple sky of her homeworld. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, she would leave this place forever. Tomorrow, she would marry a human. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them against the cold glass of the window and tried to breathe. But no matter how hard she tried, she could not calm the fear in her heart. The Valari people had been at war with humans for almost 50 years. Yuna had grown up hearing stories about them. Terrible stories. Her teachers said humans were like wild animals. They had no empathy. They felt no love. They conquered planet after planet with brutal force. They never stopped. They never showed mercy. And now, to end the war, the High Council had decided on a marriage alliance. A Valari noblewoman would wed a human ambassador. This would join their two species in peace. Yuna was that noblewoman. She had not chosen this. She had begged the council to pick someone else. She had cried and pleaded with her parents. But her father was a powerful lord, and the council wanted his bloodline for this important union. Her wishes did not matter. Her fear did not matter. Only the alliance mattered. The door behind her opened softly. Yuna did not turn around. She already knew who it was. Sister said a gentle voice. Nari walked up beside her. She was younger than Yuna by 5 years, with the same silver skin and violet eyes that all Valari had. But where Yuna was tall and serious, Nari was small and full of light. She had always been the happy one in the family. Tonight, there was no happiness in her face. I brought you some tea, Nari said. She held out a cup with steam rising from it. Mother said you have not eaten all day. Yuna took the cup but did not drink. I am not hungry. You need your strength. The journey to the neutral station takes 3 days. What does it matter? Yuna said bitterly. Whether I am strong or weak, the human will do what he wants with me. Nari's eyes filled with tears. Do not say that. Perhaps he will be kind. Kind. Yuna laughed, but there was no joy in it. Humans do not know kindness. They know only conquest. I am just another thing for him to own. She finally turned to look at her sister. Nari was crying now, silent tears running down her silver cheeks. Yuna felt her own heart break a little more. I am sorry, Yuna said softly. I should not speak this way. I am scaring you. I am already scared, Nari whispered. I am scared I will never see you again. Yuna set down the tea and pulled her sister into her arms. They held each other tightly, both of them trembling. Outside, the first moon was rising over the mountains. It cast pale light across the room. Listen to me, Yuna said. No matter what happens, I will survive. I will be strong. And one day, when there is true peace between our peoples, perhaps I can come home to visit. Do you promise? Yuna hesitated. She did not want to make a promise she could not keep, but looking into her sister's eyes, she could not say no. I promise, she said. They stayed together until late into the night. Nari eventually fell asleep in Yuna's bed, exhausted from crying. Yuna sat beside her, stroking her hair, memorizing her face. She did not know when she would see it again. The next morning came too quickly. Yuna dressed in the formal, silver robes of a Valari bride. Servants came to style her long dark hair and paint delicate patterns on her face. She looked beautiful. She felt like a prisoner being prepared for execution. Her parents waited for her in the main hall. Her mother's face was pale and drawn. She had aged 10 years in the past month. Her father stood stiff and formal, his jaw tight. You bring great honor to our house, her father said. His voice was cold and distant. Yuna wanted to scream at him. She wanted to ask if honor was worth more than his daughter's happiness. But she had been raised to be obedient, so she simply bowed her head. Thank you, Father. Her mother stepped forward and pressed something into her hand. It was a small pendant on a silver chain. Inside was a tiny hologram of their family, taken when Yuna was just a child. So you do not forget us, her mother whispered. Yuna's throat tightened. I could never forget. They embraced briefly. Then the servants announced that the transport ship was ready. The walk to the landing platform was the longest of Yuna's life. Valari nobles lined the path, watching her pass. Some looked at her with pity. Others looked at her with disgust, as if she was dirty for agreeing to marry a human. None of them understood that she had not agreed to anything. Nari ran up at the last moment, breaking through the crowd. She threw her arms around Yuna one final time. "Come back to me," she begged. "I will try," Yuna said. "Be good. Take care of Mother." Then the guards gently pulled Nari away. Yuna walked up the ramp into the ship. The doors closed behind her with a heavy sound. Through the small window, she watched her homeworld grow smaller and smaller until it was just a dot of purple light among the stars. She was alone now. The journey to the neutral station took 3 days. Just as Nari had said. Yuna spent most of it in her small cabin, refusing meals, refusing company. She tried to prepare herself for what was coming. She imagined the human who would be her husband. In her mind, he was huge and rough, with cold eyes and cruel hands. He would grab her the moment he saw her. He would claim her like property. He would not care about her tears or her fear. This was what humans did. This was what she had been taught. On the 3rd day, the ship arrived at the neutral station. It was a massive structure floating in empty space, built specifically for this occasion. Neither Valari nor human territory, a place between worlds. Yuna was escorted to a large ceremonial hall. It was decorated in both Valari and human styles, a strange mix that pleased no one. Officials from both species stood along the walls, watching, and at the end of the hall. Waiting at the altar was the human. Yuna's steps slowed. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. Every part of her wanted to run. But there was nowhere to go. No escape. No choice. She forced herself to keep walking. The human watched her approach. He was tall, with black hair and dark eyes. His face was serious but not cruel. He wore a formal uniform, neat and clean. When she reached him, she braced herself. She waited for him to grab her, to assert his dominance, to show her that she belonged to him now. Instead, he did something she did not expect. He bowed. "My name is Tay," he said. His voice was low and calm. "I know this is not what you wanted. I want you to know that I will not force anything upon you. This marriage is political, but your comfort matters to me." Yuna stared at him. She did not know what to say. This was not the monster she had imagined. This was not the beast from her nightmares, but she did not trust it. She could not trust it, so she said nothing. She simply stood there, waiting for his true nature to reveal itself. The ceremony began. The ceremony was short and formal. Words were spoken in both languages. Documents were signed. And just like that, Yuna was married to a human. She felt nothing. Or rather, she forced herself to feel nothing. She built walls around her heart and locked every emotion away. This was how she would survive. After the ceremony, Tay led her to the ship that would take them to Earth. It was a human vessel, larger than any Valari ship she had seen. The hallways were wide and clean, filled with soft light. "I have prepared quarters for you," Tay said as they walked. "If there is anything you need, please tell me." Yuna did not respond. She kept her eyes forward and her face blank. Tay did not seem bothered by her silence. He simply continued walking, keeping a respectful distance between them. When they reached her quarters, Yuna was surprised. The room was large and comfortable. There was a big bed with soft blankets, a window looking out at the stars, and a small sitting area with books and plants. Someone had even placed flowers on the table. Purple flowers, similar to ones from her homeworld. "I asked our botanists to find something familiar for you," Tay said. "I hope they are close to what you know." Yuna looked at the flowers. Then she looked at him. His face was calm and patient. There was no hidden anger in his eyes. No cruel smile on his lips. It made no sense. She asked. It was the first thing she had said to him since the ceremony. "There is another cabin down the hall," Tay said. "I will stay there." "We are not sharing quarters." "Not unless you wish to," Yuna blinked. Among the Valari, a husband always shared quarters with his wife from the first night. It was his right. It was expected. I do not understand, she said slowly. I am your wife now. You have the right to stay here. Tay shook his head. Rights are not the same as obligations. You did not choose this marriage. I will not make it harder than it needs to be. He gave a small bow. Dinner will be served in 2 hours. You are welcome to eat in the common room, or I can have food brought to you here. Whatever you prefer. Then he left. Yuna stood in the middle of the room, completely confused. She had prepared herself for cruelty. She had prepared herself for demands and commands. She had not prepared herself for kindness. It had to be a trick. Humans were cunning. Everyone knew that. He was probably waiting for her to let her guard down. Then he would show his true face. She decided she would not fall for it. Over the next few days, Yuna watched Tay carefully. She looked for signs of the monster she knew was hiding inside him. She waited for him to lose his temper, to raise his voice, to treat her like property. It never happened. Every morning, Tay would knock on her door and ask if she needed anything. Every evening, he would invite her to dinner and accept without complaint when she refused. He never entered her room without permission. He never touched her. He never even looked at her in a way that made her uncomfortable. The crew of the ship treated her with respect as well. They called her ma'am and stepped aside when she walked past. No one stared at her silver skin or whispered behind her back. On the 4th day of the journey, Yuna finally left her room. She found Tay in the ship's small garden. It was a room filled with plants from Earth, green and strange. He was sitting on a bench, reading from a tablet. He looked up when she entered. Good morning. Would you like to sit? Yuna hesitated. Then she walked over and sat on the far end of the bench, as far from him as possible. They sat in silence for a while. Yuna looked at the plants. She had never seen so much green in one place. Valari plants were mostly silver and purple. What are these called? She asked, pointing at a small tree with pink flowers. Cherry blossom, Tay said. They are very important in my culture. They represent the beauty of things that do not last forever. That is sad, perhaps, but also beautiful. We treasure things more when we know they will not last. Yuna thought about this. It was a strange way to see the world. You are not what I expected, she said suddenly. Tay set down his tablet. What did you expect? Someone cruel. Someone loud. Someone who would treat me like a thing to be owned. I am sorry you were taught to expect that. Was it wrong? Are all humans like you? Tay was quiet for a moment. No, he admitted. Humans are many things. Some are cruel. Some are kind. Some are both at different times. We are not perfect. But we are not all monsters either. Yuna did not know what to say. Her whole life she had been told one story about humans. Now that story was falling apart. Why did you agree to this marriage? She asked. To prevent more war, Tay said. Millions have already died. I did not want millions more to follow, so it was duty. Yes, but also hope. Hope for what? He looked at her with those dark, serious eyes. Hope that two people from different worlds can find understanding. If we can do it, perhaps our peoples can do it too. Yuna looked away. His words made something twist inside her chest. She was not ready to feel hope. She was not ready to trust, but for the first time, she wondered if maybe she had been wrong about him. The ship arrived at Earth 3 days later. Yuna watched through the window as the blue and green planet grew larger. It was beautiful in a way she had not expected. So much water. So many clouds stood beside her. Welcome to my home, he said. They landed in a city called Seoul. It was old and new at the same time, with ancient buildings standing next to tall towers of glass and steel. The streets were full of people going about their lives. They did not look like conquerors. They looked like ordinary beings. Tay's home was a large house on the edge of the city, surrounded by gardens. It was quiet and peaceful, far from the noise of the center. This is where we will live, he said. The staff have prepared a room for you. It has a view of the mountains. Yuna looked at the house. It was beautiful, but it was not home. I have arranged for Valari food to be stocked in the kitchen, Tay continued, and I have hired a translator in case you need help with the language. I know our tongue is difficult. You've thought of everything, Yuna said. I have tried, but I am sure I have missed things. Please tell me if there is anything more I can do. She looked at him. This human who had been given a wife he did not ask for. This man who could demand anything from her but ask for nothing. Why are you doing this? She asked. Why are you being so kind? Tay smiled softly. It was the first time she had seen him smile. Because kindness costs nothing, he said, and because you deserve it. He walked into the house, leaving her standing in the garden. Yuna looked up at the strange blue sky of Earth. She thought about her sister. She thought about her home. She thought about all the stories she had been told about humans. Then she thought about the man who had just walked away. Maybe, she thought, maybe some stories are wrong. She took a deep breath and followed him inside. Weeks passed on Earth. Yuna learned to walk. Through the garden without fear. She learned the names of the flowers and the trees. She learned to recognize the songs of the birds that came each morning, and slowly, without meaning to, she learned about Tay. He was a quiet man. He woke early each day and exercised in the garden before breakfast. He worked in his study for most of the morning, handling matters of diplomacy between humans and other species. In the afternoon, he often went to meetings in the city. But whenever he was home, he made time for her. It started with small things. He would ask about her day. He would share news from the galaxy. He would tell her about human history and customs, never forcing the information, just offering it in case she was curious. At first, Yuna gave short answers. She kept her distance. But Tay was patient. He never pushed. He never complained. He simply kept showing up, day after day, with the same calm kindness. One afternoon, Yuna found him in the kitchen. He was standing at the stove, stirring something in a pot. The smell was rich and warm. What are you doing? She asked. Cooking, he said. My grandmother taught me this recipe when I was young. It is called doenjang jjigae, a kind of soup. You cook your own food? Sometimes. It helps me think. And I enjoy it. Yuna watched him work. His movements were careful and precise. There was something peaceful about it. Do you like to try some? He asked. She hesitated. Then she nodded. They sat together at the small table in the kitchen, not the formal dining room. The soup was delicious, full of flavors she had never tasted before. Tay watched her eat, a small smile on his face. You like it? It is good, she admitted. I am glad. They ate in comfortable silence. When they finished, Tay cleared the dishes himself, refusing her offer to help. You are my guest, he said. One day, perhaps you will cook something from your world for me. But there is no rush. That night, Yuna lay in bed and thought about the meal. It was such a simple thing. 2 people sharing food. But among the Valaria, a husband never cooked for his wife. That was servant work. A lord would never lower himself to such tasks, but Tay had done it happily. He had done it to make her feel welcome. The next day, Yuna asked him to teach her about Earth. His face lit up in a way she had not seen before. It would be my honor, he said. Over the following weeks, Tay took her to see his world. They visited temples built hundreds of years ago, where people still came to pray and find peace. They walked through markets full of food and fabric and art. They sat by rivers and watched boats drift past. He took her to a museum where she saw paintings and sculptures made by human hands. Some were beautiful. Some were strange. All of them showed deep feeling. Humans make art, Yuna said, surprised. Of course. Why would we not? I was told humans only cared about war and conquest. Tay nodded slowly. We have done terrible things. I will not deny that. But we have also created beautiful things. We have loved. We have dreamed. We have reached for the stars because we wanted to know what was out there. He looked at her. We are not simple creatures. No species is. Yuna thought about her own people. The Valari were proud of their culture and their history. But they had also started wars. They had also conquered weaker species. They were not innocent. Maybe, she realized, every species was a mix of good and bad. Maybe the stories she had been told only showed one side. One evening, Tay took her to see the cherry blossoms. They walked through a park where the trees were covered in soft pink flowers. Petals fell like snow, drifting on the wind. "This is my favorite place in the city," Tay said. "I come here when I need to think." Yuna looked around. It was beautiful. Families were walking together. Children were playing. Couples were sitting on blankets, talking and laughing. "It is peaceful," she said. "Yes, peace is precious. That is why I agreed to our marriage. Not because I wanted to own you or control you, but because I wanted to protect this, all of this." He gestured at the park, at the people, at the falling blossoms. "Everyone deserves a chance to live without fear," he said. Valari and human alike. Yuna felt tears prick at her eyes. She turned away so he would not see. That night, when she returned to her room, she found something on her pillow. A small box. Inside was a necklace with a pendant shaped like a cherry blossom. There was a note beside it. The handwriting was neat and careful. "Saw you looking at the blossoms today. I hope this helps you remember that beautiful things can be found anywhere, even far from home." Yuna held the necklace in her hands. It was delicate and lovely, but it was the thought behind it that made her chest ache. He paid attention. He noticed what she liked. He wanted her to be happy. No one had ever treated her this way. Not her parents, who saw her as a tool for politics. Not the suitors, who had wanted her family name. No one. She put the necklace on and looked at herself in the mirror. The small blossom rested against her silver skin. For the first time since leaving home, she did not feel completely alone. The next morning, she went to find Tay. He was in the garden as usual, practicing slow movements with his hands and body. "Thank you," she said, "for the gift." He stopped and looked at her. His eyes softened when he saw the necklace around her neck. "You are wearing it. It is beautiful. So are you." The words were simple and honest. There was no hidden meaning, no attempt to flatter or manipulate. He simply said what he felt. Yuna did not know how to respond. So she did something she had never done before. She stepped closer and put her hand on his arm. "Will you teach me those movements?" she asked. "The ones you do each morning?" Tay smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. "Of course," he said. They stood together in the garden as the sun rose higher. He showed her how to breathe, how to move, how to find stillness inside herself. His voice was calm and patient, and for the first time, Yuna allowed herself to feel something other than fear. She felt hope. Maybe, just maybe, this strange marriage could become something real. Not a prison, not a duty, but a partnership. She was not ready to call it love, not yet. But she was ready to stop running from it. As they moved together through the morning light, she made a decision she would give him a chance. A real chance, and she would see where it led. 3 months had passed since Yuna arrived on Earth. She was not the same woman who had left her home world. She smiled more now. She talked more. She even laughed sometimes. When Tay told her stories or made small jokes, she had started calling him by his name instead of avoiding it. She ate meals with him every day, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She looked forward to their walks in the garden and their talks in the evening. She had not told him how she felt. She was not sure she understood it herself. But something had changed between them. Something warm and quiet and real. Then everything fell apart. It started with a message. Yuna was in her room when her personal screen lit up with an incoming transmission. It was marked urgent from the Valari homeworld. She opened it, expecting news from her family. Instead, she saw a face she did not know. A Valari man with cold eyes and a harsh voice. "Princess Yuna," he said. The title was mocking. "You do not know me, but I know you. I know what you have done. Marrying a human, living among them, betraying your people." Yuna's blood went cold. "Who are you?" "My name does not matter. What matters is that we are coming for you. The Pure Blood movement does not accept this alliance. We do not accept you as a Valari anymore. You are a traitor." and we will take you back by force if we must. The screen went black. Yuna sat frozen. She had heard of the Pure Blood movement. They were extremists who believed Valari should never mix with other species. They had spoken against the marriage alliance from the beginning, but she had not thought they would actually act. She ran to find Tay. He was in his study, working on documents. When he saw her face, he immediately stood. "What is wrong?" She told him everything. Her voice was shaking. Her hands were shaking. She had never been so scared. Tay listened without interrupting. When she finished, his expression was calm but serious. "I will not let them take you," he said. "They're dangerous. They will hurt anyone who stands in their way, and they will have to go through me." He called for his security team. Within an hour, the house was surrounded by guards. Scanners were set up to detect incoming ships. Emergency protocols were activated. Yuna watched it all happen. She felt helpless. This was her fault. She had brought danger to his home. "I am sorry," she said. "If I was not here, you would be safe." Tay took her hands. It was the first time he had touched her so directly. His grip was warm and steady. "Listen to me," he said. "You are not a burden. You are not a problem. You are my wife, and I will protect you. That is not a duty. That is a choice." Yuna looked into his eyes. She saw no hesitation there. No doubt, only certainty. "Why?" She whispered. "Why would you risk so much for me?" "Because you are worth protecting." Before she could respond, an alarm went off. The attack came fast. 3 small ships appeared in the sky, moving too quickly for the defense systems to stop. They landed in the garden, and armed Valari soldiers poured out. Yuna recognized the symbols on their armor. Pureblood Tay pushed her behind him. "Stay close to me." The soldiers moved toward the house. The human guards tried to hold them back, but the pureblood fighters were trained and ruthless. Plasma bolts lit up the night. A Valari officer stepped forward. He was the same man from the message. "Give us the traitor," he called out, "and no one else has to die." Tay stepped forward. His voice was cold and hard. "She is not going anywhere. Not unless she chooses to." The officer laughed. "And who will stop us? You? A single human? If I have to." The officer raised his weapon. "Then you will die first." What happened next was almost too fast to follow. Tay moved. He grabbed the officer's arm and twisted, forcing the weapon away. At the same time, his other hand struck the man's throat, sending him stumbling back. 2 more soldiers rushed in. Tay fought them with his bare hands, moving with speed and skill that Yuna had never seen. He was not just a diplomat. He was a warrior. But there were too many. A plasma bolt hit him in the shoulder. He cried out and fell to one knee. Blood soaked through his shirt. "Tay." Yuna screamed. He looked at her. Even in pain, his first thought was for her. "Run," he said. "Get inside. I will not leave you." More human guards arrived. The battle turned. One by one, the pure-blood soldiers were taken down. The officer tried to flee, but he was captured before he could reach his ship. When it was over, the garden was full of smoke and fallen bodies. Yuna ran to Tay. He was still on his knees, pressing his hand against the wound. His face was pale. "You are hurt," she said. Tears were streaming down her face. "It is nothing. It is not nothing. You were shot. You could have died." He looked at her with those dark, steady eyes. "But I did not." "Why?" she demanded. "Why would you do that? Why would you risk your life for me?" He smiled. "It was weak, but it was real. Because you are my wife," he said. "And because you deserve to be protected. Not traded. Not abandoned. Protected." Medical teams arrived and took him away. Yuna followed, refusing to leave his side. In the transport vehicle, she held his hand. His grip was weak, but he did not let go. At the hospital, the doctors said he would recover. The wound was serious but not fatal. He needed rest and time. Yuna sat by his bed all night. She watched him sleep. She studied his face. The face of the man who had bled for her. She thought about everything that had happened since she came to Earth. The kindness, the patience, the small gifts and quiet moments. She thought about how he never asked for anything in return. And she realized something. She loved him. Not because she was forced to. Not because of duty or politics. But because he had shown her what love actually looked like. It was not words. It was not promises. It was action. It was sacrifice. It was choosing someone else over yourself. When Tay opened his eyes the next morning, Yuna was still there. "You stayed," he said. "Of course I stayed." She leaned forward and took his hand. She was not shaking anymore. She was not afraid anymore. "You saved my life," she said. "You almost died for me. I would do it again." "I know you would." She paused. "And I need you to know something." He waited. "I am not afraid of you anymore," she said. "I am not afraid of this marriage. I am not afraid of what the future holds." She took a deep breath. "Because I love you." Tay stared at her. For a moment, he said nothing. Then his eyes softened, and a tear rolled down his cheek. "I love you too," he said. "I have loved you since the first day you sat in my garden and asked about the cherry blossoms." Yuna laughed through her tears. "That long? That long?" She leaned down and pressed her forehead to his. "Then we are fools," she whispered. "Both of us." "Yes," he agreed. "But at least we are fools together." Outside, the sun was rising over the city. A new day was beginning, and for the first time, Yuna was excited to see what it would bring. Tay's recovery was slow. The plasma wound had damaged muscle and bone. The doctors said he would need many weeks of rest before he could move normally again. Yuna refused to leave his side. She learned to change his bandages. She learned to prepare the medicines he needed. She spent hours in the kitchen struggling to cook the human foods he liked. The first few attempts were terrible. She burned the rice and put too much salt in the soup. But she kept trying. When Tay finally tasted a meal she had made, he smiled. "It is perfect," he said. "You are lying." "Only a little." They laughed together. It felt natural now, easy, like something they had been doing for years instead of months. The Valari, High Council, sent a message during his recovery. The pure blood attack had been a violation of the peace treaty. The leaders of the movement had been arrested. And in light of what had happened, the council was offering Yuna a choice. She could annul the marriage and return home. No one would blame her. No one would call her a traitor. The alliance would continue through other means. YUNA read the message 3 times. Then she deleted it. She did not tell Tay about it for several days. She wanted to be sure of her own heart first. On a quiet afternoon, when he was sitting up in bed for the first time, she finally spoke. "The council offered to end our marriage," she said. Tay went very still. His face became unreadable. "I see," he said carefully. "And what did you tell them?" "I told them no." He looked at her. "You refused?" "Yes." "Why?" Yuna moved closer. She sat on the edge of his bed and took his hands in hers. "Because this is not a political arrangement anymore," she said. "Not for me. I do not want to leave. I do not want to go back to my old life, where I was just a tool for my family's ambition. I want to stay here. With you, Yuna, let me finish." She took a breath. "I was taught my whole life to fear humans. I was told you were monsters. Cold, cruel, incapable of love." She squeezed his hands. "But you have shown me more kindness in these few months than I ever received in my entire life among my own people. You never demanded anything from me. You never tried to control me. You gave me space and time and patience. You almost died to protect me." Tears were falling down her cheeks now. She did not try to stop them. "I do not want to be your political bride anymore. I want to be your real wife, your partner, your equal, if you will have me." Tay's eyes were bright with emotion. He reached up and touched her face, wiping away her tears with his thumb. "I have wanted that since the day I met you," he said. "But I was afraid to ask. I did not want to pressure you. I did not want you to feel trapped." "I do not feel trapped. I feel free. For the first time in my life, I feel free. He pulled her close, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. They held each other for a long time, two hearts beating together. Then we start again, he said. Not as strangers forced together, but as two people who choose each other. Yes, she whispered. We choose each other. When Tay was well enough to walk, they held a second ceremony. Not a political event, with officials and cameras. A small gathering in the garden, under the cherry blossom trees. Yuna wore a dress that mixed Valari silver with human white. Tay wore a traditional suit from his culture. They wrote their own vows. I promise to always see you, Yuna said. Not as an alien, not as a symbol, but as the person you are, kind, patient, brave. I promise to stand beside you in hard times and good times. I promise to love you, not because I must, but because I want to. Tay took her hands. I promise to protect you, he said. Not because you are weak, but because you are precious to me. I promise to listen to you, to learn from you, to grow with you. I promise to build a life with you that neither of us could have built alone. They exchanged rings. Simple bands of silver and gold twisted together, and when they kissed, the cherry blossoms fell around them like pink snow. A year later, Yuna stood before the Galactic Council. She had been asked to speak about the peace between humans and Valari. Diplomats from 100 worlds watched her. I was taught to hate humans, she began. I was taught they were dangerous, savage, without feeling. When I was told I would marry one, I expected only suffering. She paused. I was wrong. She told them about Tay, about his kindness, his patience, his willingness to sacrifice himself for someone he barely knew. She told them about the small moments that had changed her heart. The soup he cooked, the flowers he found, the way he listened when she spoke. Humans are not perfect, she said. No species is. They have done terrible things. So have we. So has every civilization in this room. She looked around at the assembled delegates. But humans are also capable of extraordinary love. They feel deeply. They care fiercely. They will bleed for the people they cherish. She smiled. I know, because one bled for me. The speech was broadcast across the galaxy. It sparked conversations. It changed minds. Slowly, carefully, other species began to see humans differently, not just as conquerors, but as partners, as friends, as family. 10 years later, Yuna and Tay had 2 children. A son with his father's dark eyes and his mother's silver-tinted skin, a daughter with her mother's grace and her father's quiet strength. They raised them in the house by the garden, teaching them both Valari and human traditions. The children learned to bow and to embrace, to meditate and to run, to value peace and to fight for what mattered. Yuna's sister Nari came to visit often. She had married a Valari diplomat and had children of her own. The cousins played together in the garden, human and Valari, and mixed, all of them laughing under the same sky. One evening, as the sun set over the mountains, Yuna sat with Tay on their favorite bench. The cherry blossoms were blooming again. Petals drifted on the wind. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Regret what? Agreeing to marry a stranger from another world. Tay smiled. It was the same warm smile she had fallen in love with all those years ago. Never, he said. Not for a single moment. She leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. I was so afraid when I came here, she said. I thought my life was over. I thought I would be a prisoner forever, and now. She looked at their children playing in the garden. She looked at the home they had built together. She looked at the man who had changed everything. Now I know the truth, she said. The human I dreaded became the human I could not live without. The marriage I feared became the greatest gift of my life. Tay kissed her forehead. And we are just getting started, he said. She smiled. Yes, we are. The sun dipped below the mountains. The stars began to appear one by one. And somewhere among them, worlds that had once been enemies were learning to be friends. All because one human chose kindness, and one Valari chose to believe in it.